How would you describe the house tour to a blind person?
We want to take the visitor on a house tour through the unfurnished apartment interior. In first sight, everything looks really common, so you feel like you're in a regular apartment. There are built-in cabinets on the left side, some sanitary rooms on the right, and you start to move and go through the pavilion, and you more and more realize that actually nothing is as you expect. Some rooms are too big, too small, or distorted, put in perspective. So it's actually you're somehow in an impossible interior or in an impossible apartment.
How did you come up with that idea?
We started the project by looking at a very peculiar form of architectural representation that we actually found in Switzerland. It's images of unfurnished apartments that we found on web pages of architecture firms. And what is very interesting about it is that it's focusing only on the surface, on this architectural shell of the apartment. You see, while usually housing is discussed through the floor plan, it's about organization, it's about function, it's about where is which room related to what, how can I furnish this room, or it's discussed through images that are furnished. But here, where you have a lot of, in Switzerland, where you have a lot of these images that are unfurnished, suddenly the focus shifts from the plan to the elevation.
What we try to do then in the pavilion is somehow to bring this surface, which is so common and so familiar, no one somehow reflects on it. We try to bring to the foreground, so that it's on one side this surface or this environment is really familiar, but by transforming it, your body is somehow detached from the surface, and you start to realize how you actually live.
This moment of alienation is produced by shifts of scales. So we built into the Swiss Pavilion a labyrinthian sequence of perspectives that we constructed out of basically a misreading of the image. So when you look at the image, you see a space that looks real, but on the other hand, it's also a very fictional or artificial space that you could misread. You don't see how deep really something is. It's only your brain is kind of calculating the reality for you, but you actually could be misreading. So what we did, we started to misread these images and build these spaces in different scales. So your body, what Alessandro just was saying, would detach from the normal ergonomics of a normal flat.
We want to really reflect on it, and also, and I think what we realized, or the first reaction people had when they entered the pavilion, they somehow, in the beginning they said, yeah, they got it, because you have to somehow be in the space to realize what happens with you.
That's actually a very clever move, because by creating an experience, people have to go there.
Yeah. It really only works when you're in there. You don't have the same kind of experience while watching a movie or looking at an image of the pavilion.
So with the Svizzera 240 house tour, you even won the Golden Lion, a prize which is quite prestigious. And what is also very special is that it was the first time that Pro Helvetia made an open concours, so everyone could apply to do this work at the Biennale.
Yes.
So for you, young artists doing this for the first time and then winning the Golden Lion as well, I mean, what went through your mind?
There was like one event after the other that was kind of surreal to us, because it started, as you said, it's the first time Pro Helvetia commissioned an open call. Everybody that is related to architecture and related to Switzerland could apply for this. So first time young people could apply for this really intriguing exhibition. Then we won. We came around further. Like, we applied, we came around further, we presented it, we won. We did the pavilion, which was a long, I'm just saying it now like that, but it was a long process. And then, first of all, people reacting very, very positive and very subjectively. We wanted to pose a question, to have to open up a discussion, a discourse. A lot of people different opinions, but everybody, or almost everybody, very positive about it. That was very nice. And then the Golden Lion. So it was one surreal
Thing
event
after the other.
after another.
Well, it's good to also find new talent.
Yes, and I think also in relation to Switzerland, Switzerland is really proud of the architectural competition to somehow also give people a chance with content and not based on somehow to be well known.
And I mean, you're all quite young, between 30 and 34, more or less. This is amazing, amazing start for your career.
It's still very abstract to us what this achievement means, but we are definitely decided to make projects everywhere out of everything.
I'm sure that while you were in Venice, you also saw other contributions.
Yes, some.
Or at least the ones you saw. How did yours differentiate from the others?
I think what we really tried is to make an exhibition without somehow explaining also too much what we did, but that we tried that the installation speaks almost for itself, so there doesn't have to be huge letters or mediation, but that we also try to somehow address different visitors.
Is there like a specific takeaway message you want people to take away, or is it really everyone should have its own message?
Well, at first sight, it's about displaying something that is not displayed. You know, like looking at architecture that is actually in our, let's say, Western civilization, the most built fabric, you know, at all, and it's not discussed. It's just discussed through, you know, square meters and the plan. And even if you see those images that are furnished, it's always still about organization, because it's about how can I place my belongings within this background. So this architecture is always conceived as the background for individual living.
So which means your installations adhere more actually to a image of an apartment, or to the principles of an image, than to apartment itself, right?
Yes, I think also what we did is somehow we transformed like space in which is put in images or shown in images. Then we somehow build the images, or even we build somehow a big interior model, so nothing works actually. A part of the doors, but we almost try to create an image.
Housing is an area in architecture that is highly restricted, standardized, normatized. The architect itself can't do a lot of things within housing. It's all kind of, the setup is pretty much, you know, already given. And where we see the potential within that sort of architecture is within representation. Or representation is the part of architecture that, first of all, every architect uses and needs in order to explain the projects. And on the other hand, it's also means of looking at something in a different way. There is some free space, if you want to see it that way, within architectural representation. And within the image of the unfurnished apartment, we already see sort of a potential to speculate within this architecture. And then what we did is actually misinterpret these images in order to construct a form of representation, the house tour basically.
So you mentioned the standardization, that architects have to work within standards. That's why you also called it Svizzera 240. Maybe you can quickly explain what it means, 240?
The 240 is the approximate ceiling height in Switzerland. Mm-hmm. The floor is separated by the ceiling. But for us it's more kind of a term for addressing this really stubborn and given condition you have to work within to make housing projects.
The topic of the Biennale itself is free space as well, but somehow you're questioning that.
How we see free space is kind of finding generosity or surprises within the most restricted architectural environment. And where we see these surprises could take place is within architectural representation, but because architectural representation is how you look at something, how you depict something, and how you think about something. And we think also that the way you look at something also can change the way you act on something, or the way you would describe something would change the way you would design something, or you would conceive a space. So it's kind of a chain reaction that most probably, or not most probably, but hopefully could change something.
So everything seems, it went so smoothly, but I'm sure it didn't. What were the challenges?
Yeah, I mean there were
a lot of challenges.
actually a lot of challenges.
Tell me one.
Yeah, for me the most difficult thing was the time. Somehow we had 1 year.
Scaling the time would have been perfect.
Yes, the time was really given, and somehow the opening was fixed. So and everything had to be done in this year. And this was really a kind of every week was a different task or a thing we had to really chase almost. Yeah. Starting with finding sponsors, conceptualizing the idea more, finding partners of the industry. And also building it in the end. And Venice is also not kind of, it's also difficult to build there or something. It's almost a special condition.
You mentioned sponsors. How did you finance all that? Was it Pro Helvetia or ETH where you work?
Yes, we had a fixed amount of Pro Helvetia, and then we could somehow top up the money and find sponsors as many as we wanted. So we worked with partners from the building industry.
Yeah. Also, ETH was the sponsor,
yes.
Not a sponsor, but was helping us out a little bit.
Okay, so you had a fixed budget, but if you would find some sponsors.
Yeah, that was our part. We had to do that, which was also one of those challenges because we never we were new to fundraising. You know, I mean, that was a total different reality for us. The good thing about the project or doing an exhibition about housing is that you can address industry that builds, building industry, and a lot of them were very positive.
Generous. So how much did you spend on that project?
Yeah, this we don't want to make public.
Okay. But were you very successful with finding extra sponsors?
Yeah. Yes. We needed a little more than double.
Yeah.
Of what was given.
Yeah.
Yes, but I mean, here we also can say that we were really lucky to also somehow all these firms they jumped in and really supported us.
So you both live and work in Switzerland. What does Switzerland offer from an architect's point of view?
I think Switzerland is really a nation of tenants. So housing is not only a big theme of all inhabitants here, but also it's still in the hands of the architects in Switzerland. So it's really the big topic. Beginning from school at ETH, you have several semesters where you think about how to live, how to organize living space and so forth. So I think this is maybe also a little bit a difference to other nations. And of course Switzerland is very proud of their housing industry. Over
half of Swiss population does not own houses or flats, but rent out houses or flats, which means that that the people are not bound to one place, but they would move around a lot, like from one flat to the other, which makes them almost like house tourists. Yeah, so you are a house tourist in this landscape of housing in Switzerland, and this was also one trigger of us why we wanted to do this work. So it's kind of. Yeah, it's kind of very fascinating that like housing production in Switzerland is kind of a very special thing. Yeah, that makes Swiss architecture interesting.
Well, Lee and Alessandro, thank you very much.